25 June 2023, we can check that we had reported our things and the procedure we are doing as the credit procedure catching up phase 2. We will the review as I had a review from the past, having the show business phase 1 until the present time. We could check that the different matrix combined if having fail and not the period probably will set something new from inside. This pattern was observed at the Unisys 90. We had the operation third wind, named this. The Brazil is forbidden as a state to do economic exploitation, but we observe that Brazil respects nothing, even beyond the jurisdiction of Brazil and economic conjuncture, affecting the econometrical measurement all around the globe, violated international guarantee, and the prescription as behavior at the Constitution. One more time, violating your own Constitution. In general, you have freedom as an individual to do everything except which is forbidden by law, but an institution must do what is prescribed by law and what is not forbidden by law. But this is difficult for Brazil. The last thing we had on blog, you please take a look. Risk report June 2023, trace june.blogspot.com. June 24, RJ Brazil, 20 o'clock, 37 minutes, 8 hours, 37 minutes in the night. We had a research, a request to stop interference. Brazil in general and peers, when receive something like this, they do the opposite. They do more aggression, more abuses, because since you insist systematically into a wrongdoing, indeed you are doing something abusive. Especially, notice all around the globe, we have patterns, we have the current phase as security plan, considering the distribution of centers as interest on Europe, using banks, on USA, using banks, using a channel on Asia with the Bank of Japan. We could check in the past this situation here, which was the last thing we had. I could understand that if I have a distortion inside my matrix that has America and Brazil, and I could observe that Brazil is unable to understand things, the Security Forum Brazil USA will carry the failure of both, and the failure of both, it doesn't matter which is the composition as resulting, because indeed is something failed. If you insisted on it, you did systematical mistake as wrongdoing. The institution must do what is prescribed to be made, and we respect everything that is forbidden to be made. Wrongdoing, wrongdoing on it, wrongdoing in Brazil, wrongdoing in USA. See? Having this oriented program here, I could understand that happened inside the Security Forum, having a study interest, for instance, the NATO. And I will observe that the regression as composition that Brazil and America are state give me the idea as misuse of state power in Brazil and USA. The first step is to not respect your own constitution. Then we will check that it's a treasonous act, especially by silence and blind eye, and the America has clear on Article 1, I think Section 3, or I think that is Article 1, Section 3, that the judges in both courts will deserve the compensation until have the good behavior. Is this a good behavior? Security Forum. You will present the dismiss list. Then Having this dismissed list, considering that the judge, the prosecution, the security system as all types of police, and the defensive system, which indeed now is the security for America, will got in touch with threats against the homeland and threats as all type of crimes. If they got advanced and conquered the institution, you all failed. Having this from judges, that you will do the regression until you understand who divided the matrix, the composition of this negative one here as C. Because this will have tolerance with failure crimes, do hiring process and contracts, and will have more activity that I can support, and it's prescripted to have the domestic tranquility on American Constitution. Is this beyond the limits of my capacity, especially as solving problem, respecting the U.S. preamble, security fund? Why do we have a bank crisis in USA and a crisis of credit all around the globe? First thing we have, doing our regression, quite simple, security forum until this time is a fraud. We'll check that we have my regular area. We'll have my regular area. Let's keep things clear. I will understand that the organized crime is invasive and will cross the limits as illegal activity to chase my citizens, my people, my employees. But some areas has legal prescription and legal duties that must be respected, so I can claim and observe that fails from the top. With the entry at the bottom, I will set my law enforcement at the middle, and they will go in touch with the bottom, with the top. If they both are here and got enticed by a bad investor or something like this, they probably will walk with the agents, as like a walking through, and got in touch with all those criminal activities at the show business and the cross-cut we have here is something illegal if you are inside the criminal side, and it will be okay, but at this side is at least corruption, and it's not okay. I could understand all this at the show business phase 1, 2, and 3. I think we had white collar crime, bondage, dominance, submission, and other things, and in the end we had piracy, including the behavior that we could understand how the pirates affected my environment, changing the behavior of things on Europe, USA, and Asia. Is to get, we are observing that on present time, the organized crime at institution is here, setting stimulation and things in order to obtain advantage by entrance and scapegoat things by the image, keeping the domain at themselves, even change or switching the position, for instance, as CAO into a director, into a global manager. And we will observe that it doesn't matter the circumstance, that model will allow me to get this idea in the same way, because we are chasing the person after segment the environment and institution. And finally, the first step we must have as the accountability to the Asia, Americas, and Europe, mostly the entire global system we're using our effort, was that I have my organization with distortions on it. I must have only one group even by walking through. After I have the walking through, I will check the association as a valuing of loss, deficit, and other criminal elements was required by the Interpol, strong networks and corporations. We will check the last thing as our last movement, and was the very beginning of 2014, that Brazil is an environment like any other environment, and you as citizen can, an individual can do everything here since not forbidden by law. But Brazil starts to have failure from inside. And this failure from inside had been taking little by little the basic rights, the guarantees, and became bigger and in a very specific moment. Had all this, and kind of the last thing I had was my moral reservation, considering the intimacy and privacy that I have to do my thoughts, considering the freedom of thoughts, to do things I believe maybe the freedom to apply my effort as intellectual activity. And the last thing, the privacy as itself, which is my home. Even if you are watching the television show nowadays saying that have people making entry in your home, it's not, it's illegal. But Brazil is unable to understand simple things by the type of people we have in our institutions. They are criminals. They are below the animals. We will check that here I have my center of all interest in things I do, but Brazil decided to violate this. And in a very specific moment hurt the American Constitution, hurted others' interests and a lot of things. And this give me the idea as why Brazil is charged by law under constitutional forms. Because Brazil is abusive, violent, and extremely coward. See, paycheck, 37 trillion, 1% first trillion, plus cases, harassment, economic espionage, and interference. You decide by law, and we requested a judicial account because Brazil is dishonest too with their peers, and probably they will pay with fake money or something like this. If when you receive this on judicial account, you will do the review of the money, and you will have one bank account of North America, one bank account on Europe, and one near here with the origin at South America, right? We'll check that this thing is all sourced at failure of this driver here, but combined them all. After have the bank, I will review things, understanding the source as problem, and I will have a situation on Asia as Bank of Japan to interact with. Having Asia, we have North America, we have Europe, we have Asia, we have Brazil. Asia and others, you got the point. Global architecture set to be fixed. Take a look on our risk report, June 2023. Risk report 2023, tracejune.blogspot.com. You get the current moment at the security plan 1920 up to 2028. Have a nice week. No excuses, no default, considering the International Criminal Court, the IOM, and the prosecution. I expect the reciprocity, including the satisfaction of this credit. We operated this one more time. Credit procedure part 2, the catching up.